The galaxy remembered the day by the color of its silence. A dozen suns rose on worlds that had watched humanity's trial, and every transmission chamber, every holoscreen, every alien tavern still echoed with the same reel of spectacle. The Galactic Empire had staged it like theater, with polished arrogance and the precision of cruelty dressed as law. Billions of humans, scattered across Earth and the colonies, had been reduced to dust in one synchronized gesture, a gesture meant to demonstrate efficiency, dominion, inevitability. The feed opened with Earth. Cities once humming with neon lights and late-night traffic stood still, their avenues stripped of breath. Above them hung orbital carriers, each one a monolith blotting out pieces of sky. The alien announcers, scaled like obsidian statues, described the judgment as though narrating a harvest. On the first command, beams descended, brilliant spears of annihilation that pierced into neighborhoods, schools, quiet homes where children had been whispering bedtime stories. The sound was not thunder, but a roar that rattled the ribs of every survivor long enough to hear it. 7 billion lives. That was the number the announcers repeated, their tones somewhere between glee and formality. The figure echoed into the archives, into the drinks poured by smug lords, into the debates of scholars who told themselves that primitive humans had overreached and now reaped their price. Some species applauded. Others turned away, whispering that extermination was clumsy even if efficient. But for the Empire, the purpose was spectacle. Humanity had been erased in one sweeping strike. And yet, the broadcast did not end with silence. When the final beam ceased and the last city dimmed into ruins, a new figure stepped onto the central dais of the Galactic Council. The chamber itself was carved into the side of a living asteroid, its walls lit with veins of crystalline light, and its tiers filled with the most powerful leaders in the known galaxy. They expected a human to kneel, or perhaps to weep. Instead, a man in an old-fashioned Earth suit, dark tailored, with a tie slightly loosened, walked as though he had all the time in the universe. His hair was short, peppered with gray, his face polite in a way that seemed almost inappropriate after genocide. He smiled. "Honored delegates," he began, voice steady, carrying through the acoustics of the chamber without aid of translators, though every species heard the words in their own tongue. "Thank you for your performance. A rather extravagant one, I must say. The choreography, the synchronized beams, the music underlay. You even had fireworks. Not every extinction earns an orchestra. My compliments." A ripple of laughter surged from the arrogant factions. The reptilian warlords clacked their teeth. The avian scholars tilted their heads in disapproval at his irreverence. But beneath the noise, a few ancient species, the slow-breathing amphibians of the deep planets, the crystalline seers from fractured moons, shifted uneasily. They heard in the cadence something others did not, a man speaking through courtesy like a blade wrapped in silk. The human inclined his head slightly, like a host indulging guests at a dinner party. 7 billion. That is the number you've etched into your ledgers. Quite a bill you've handed us. 7 billion mothers and brothers and children. Quite a debt. He paused, eyes sweeping the chamber, meeting gaze after alien gaze without flinch or falter. We humans, you see, have a peculiar relationship with debts. We always pay them. Always. Sometimes with interest. The insectoid queen, whose thorax glimmered with jewels, clicked her mandibles in disdain. Your species is ended, remnant. You stand here a relic. Speak your last and vanish. He smiled again, this time smaller, almost amused. Ended? Oh, my dear queen, humans don't end. We adapt. Like cockroaches, or weeds, or perhaps that song you can't get out of your head, no matter how hard you try. You swat us, and we pop back up in a place you never expect. You kill 7 billion, and all you've done is make us creative. That word, creative, shivered across the chamber, though few admitted it aloud. The avian scholar scratched a talon against stone. The amphibian elder's throat sac swelled uneasily. Creativity was not a trait empires cherished in prey. The man continued, his tone conversational, his metaphors distinctly earthborn. Where I come from, When a neighbor steals your last beer from a cooler, it's not just theft, it's war. When someone changes the channel in the middle of your team's final touchdown, it's a declaration of eternal enmity. And when someone takes your family, well, then you discover what humans are truly like. Because behind our handshakes and smiles, we carry long memories and sharp tools. One of the warlords sneered, smoke curling from his nostrils. Your people are livestock. You were culled. The galaxy is safer now. Livestock. The man tilted his head as though considering the word. Then he chuckled, warm and easy. See, that's the funniest thing. Farmers never think much of cows until the day a bull decides the fence isn't real. Then it's not the farmer in charge anymore. It's the horns. The laughter from some benches faltered. The warlord's sneer wavered, though he masked it with a hiss. The human clasped his hands gently, as though concluding a sermon. I stand here not as a relic, but as a reminder. You've taken 7 billion. That is 7 billion reasons why the galaxy will change. You think you've seen humanity's face? You've only seen the mask we wear when we're comfortable. But comfort is gone now. And masks, his smile widened politely. Masks come off. Silence spread in waves. Even the arrogant ones sensed it, though pride kept them loud. The insectoid queen hissed a curse. The reptilian warlords barked laughter to cover unease. But the crystalline seers whispered among themselves, and their voices trembled. The man bowed with exquisite civility. Thank you again for your performance. I imagine we will be staging one of our own soon. I'll make sure to send you tickets. He turned as though to leave, shoes clicking softly on the polished stone. His figure seemed small against the cavernous chamber, but not one alien forgot the glint in his eyes. It was not despair. It was promise. The holofeed cut abruptly, leaving millions of viewers across the galaxy staring at blank screens. Some mocked, calling it the empty bravado of a doomed species. Others laughed nervously, repeating his metaphors as jokes in smoke-filled bars. But among the oldest, those who remembered predators in the night before civilization lit the stars, a quiet dread seeped. On the ruins of Earth, among the ashes of the fallen, survivors listened too. They had seen the beams carve their skies, heard the roar of annihilation. Yet they also heard his words carried like embers across static. We always pay debts. Sometimes with interest. And somewhere, hidden far from alien eyes, human hands tightened around tools not yet revealed. The galaxy thought the broadcast had ended. It had only begun. The council chamber emptied into corridors of crystal and steel, but the echoes of the man's voice lingered like smoke that refused to leave the lungs. Alien lords returned to their fleets, some laughing, some whispering, a few staring into the distance, as though the words had been a prophecy they dared not interpret aloud. For them, the matter was over. Humanity was finished, its ashes swept from the board. But the man in the earth suit did not leave to vanish in disgrace. He returned to his quarters, a modest room provided for remnant delegates, and he poured himself a cup of something dark from a thermos battered by years of use. Coffee. The fragrance rolled through the air, bitter and familiar. The kind of thing aliens dismissed as primitive. A brown liquid humans clung to like ritual. He drank slowly, savoring it, as though he had not just witnessed his species halved and burned. Behind the calm smile was Colonel Elias Mercer, a strategist who had worn the mask of diplomat because war demanded theater as much as bullets. He had been chosen not for his politics, nor for his grief, but for the peculiar calm he carried like a knife tucked in cloth. Those who knew him well, few and now fewer, understood that his humor was never free of edge. He spoke in jokes because knives gleamed sharper when hidden under laughter. A soft chime at his door interrupted the stillness. He answered without hesitation. A small alien figure entered, stooped with age, skin like folded parchment. One of the crystalline seers, eyes glowing faintly blue, leaned on a cane of fractured light. She looked up at him with the resignation of one who had already glimpsed endings. "You speak too boldly," she whispered, her voice like wind through caverns. "Boldness draws teeth. You should have mourned. It would have been safer." Mercer smiled gently, as though she were an aunt worrying over a reckless nephew. "Mourning is for graves, ma'am. I still have work to do. Besides, you know us humans, we can't help cracking jokes at funerals." Keeps the reaper on his toes. The seer's luminous eyes trembled. "You are not what they think you are." "That," Mercer replied, sipping his coffee, "is the only reason I'm still alive." When she left, he locked the door and activated the concealed screen built into his thermos. Old Earth tech, rough around the edges, but patched with stolen alien circuits. A dozen faces flickered onto the projection. Men and women, tired eyes, hardened jaws. Survivors, commanders, engineers. They spoke in terse bursts, voices coded and layered. "Transmission secure," said one, her uniform scorched at the shoulder. "Colonel, the convoy reached Titan. We've integrated 2 of their cruisers. Hulls are weak, but engines sing like devils." Another reported, "Mars outpost alive. 90,000 survivors. They beg for weapons." One by one, voices updated him. Not 7 billion survivors, far from it, but pockets, hidden beneath rubble, inside asteroids, across colonies long ignored. Not enough to rebuild a civilization easily, but enough to plan a war. Mercer listened, nodding slightly, eyes heavy with calculation. "Good. Keep the noise down. Don't let them see you until it's too late. We'll bleed them quiet first. Then we'll bleed them loud." There was no cheer, only grim assent. The feed faded. The thermos returned to being nothing but battered steel, reeking faintly of beans roasted in hiding. Mercer leaned back in his chair. He thought of Earth, not as a planet, not as numbers on a casualty chart, but as his grandmother's porch, as his brother's laugh over a baseball game, as the stubborn joy of a people who found excuses to dance at funerals. The Empire had mistaken that joy for weakness. That mistake would kill them. The shift began small. The first alien fleet sent to patrol Sol vanished, without trace. Whispers spread of engines falling silent, of crews disappearing into vacuum with no alarms triggered. No wreckage was found, only empty ships drifting like husks. The Empire dismissed it as malfunction. A second fleet followed. It too vanished. Behind those vanishings was Mercer's knife, the quiet strike of sabotage seeded years before. While the galaxy mocked humans for their crude ships and noisy engines, Earth's engineers had learned to graft alien technology onto their own. They had stolen circuits, weapons, warp cores. They had studied weaknesses with the patience of surgeons. Now, remnants struck like phantoms. They jammed sensors, bent signals, and left fleets adrift. The Empire's pride had been their armadas. Pride makes easy targets. Mercer knew the war could not be won with weapons alone. Fear had to walk ahead of the bullets. So he used humor as blade. Messages were left behind on the derelicts. Jokes written in alien tongues, signed with human wit. "Nice ship. We borrowed the keys. Don't worry, we filled the tank." Another scrawled across a cruiser's shattered hull. "Earth thanks you for your donation. Tax deductible." The jokes spread faster than the wreckage. Soldiers whispered of humans as ghosts. Commanders sneered but tightened their patrols. The laughter turned uneasy. And still Mercer smiled. At the next council session, the insectoid queen spat venom at him, accusing him of spreading lies. "Your people are gone. Your fleets are nothing but sparks. Yet you grin. Why? Do you not understand the grave?" Mercer folded his hands, polite as a priest. "Oh, I understand graves very well. But you see, graves are tricky things. Sometimes, if you don't dig them deep enough, what you bury crawls back out. You might call us a resurrection story." Some delegates chuckled nervously. The reptilian warlord slammed a claw. "You threaten us with scraps. Your colonies are ash." "Scraps." Mercer tilted his head thoughtfully. "Scraps make quilts. Quilts keep families warm through winter. You should visit a farmhouse sometime. You'd learn not to underestimate scraps." The laughter that followed was jagged, not certain whether it was joke or warning. That was how Mercer liked it. A smile is sharpest when no one can tell if it hides teeth. Later, alone in his quarters, he reviewed reports of the hidden fleets. ships stitched together from ruins and captured hulls. Fighters painted with teeth and slogans in languages aliens could not translate, but instinctively feared. Human soldiers drilled not just in battle, but in laughter. Jokes were part of training, humor a weapon against despair. War would be waged with rifles and rockets, but also with charm, with sarcasm, with the refusal to bow even when drowned in loss. He thought often of a word, creative. It was the gift of desperation. 7 billion dead had not ended creativity. It had sharpened it. Operation Alien Extinction was not rage without aim. It was rage refined into calculus. Mercer's smile widened when he reviewed the trap. For years, human diplomats had played the fool, had let themselves appear backward, bumbling, sentimental. They had told stories of baseball and barbecues, had filled negotiations with odd jokes about fast food and sitcoms. Aliens laughed. But hidden in those ramblings were codes, maps, signals passed to colonies and ships under the enemy's nose. The galaxy had mistaken performance for weakness. Now they would learn that weakness was costume. The seer returned to him one night, unannounced. Her crystalline skin shimmered faintly in the dim light. She gazed at him for a long time, saying nothing. Finally, "I have seen rivers of blood, and in their reflection I see your smile. Do you not fear what you will become?" Mercer sipped his coffee. The bitterness steadied him. "Ma'am, fear's been in our bloodstream since we learned to run from lions on the savannah. We never killed it, we taught it to dance. That's what makes us dangerous. We don't run forever. We turn. And when we turn, we don't stop." Her eyes dimmed. "Then the galaxy will drown. Then maybe it should learn to swim." She left without another word. Outside, fleets gathered. Across the stars, rumors bred panic. Delegates whispered that perhaps extermination had not ended humanity, but summoned it. Some claimed to see human shadows in their dreams. Others swore they heard laughter in the static of their comms. Prideful species dismissed it all, insisting humanity was dust. But the older ones remembered predators that smiled before striking. Mercer tightened his tie before the next council meeting, standing before the mirror in his quarters. His reflection looked like any polite diplomat, slightly tired, faintly amused. But behind the smile was the knife, and the knife was almost ready to be unsheathed. When he entered the chamber, the alien lords jeered. The insectoid queen hissed. The warlord bared teeth. Mercer only nodded, calm as Sunday service. He waited for silence. "My friends," he said warmly, "I must thank you again for your hospitality. I hear fleets are vanishing. Curious business. Some say ghosts. Some say sabotage. But me, I like to think it's simply karma, coming round like a boomerang. You ever throw a boomerang? Funny thing. It always comes back." Uneasy silence followed. The avian scholar shifted feathers nervously. The warlord growled low. Mercer smiled. The smile of a neighbor holding a casserole dish who just happened to be standing on your lawn with gasoline behind his back. He leaned forward slightly, voice dropping, every word landing like a nail hammered into wood. "You killed 7 billion of ours. You call that extinction. We call that motivation. You think we died. We didn't. We hid. We learned. We prepared. And now, counselors, you have a problem." His smile never wavered. "Because Operation Alien Extinction has already begun." The chamber froze, the words sinking like anchors. Delegates shifted, mouths opening in protest or disbelief. But Mercer only straightened his tie again, casual, polite, deadly calm. And in the silence that followed, far beyond the council's halls, another alien fleet went dark. The galaxy prided itself on order. Armadas mapped stars in neat lines, convoys pulsed like veins through trade routes, and the Empire declared itself a gardener trimming weeds from a cosmic field. But gardeners rarely noticed the roots beneath the soil until they split stone. And so, when the first patrol fleets vanished, the Empire called it malfunction. When the second disappeared, they blamed pirates. By the fifth, they stopped speaking excuses aloud. Colonel Elias Mercer listened to their chatter with the calm detachment of a chess player watching pawns shuffle in panic. Reports streamed across hidden channels, carried in bursts of code disguised as weather updates or fragments of baseball commentary no alien could decipher. Every new line was a confirmation that the blade was turning. Human ships, if one could still call them that, were not fleets in the traditional sense. They were stitched together monstrosities, built from scavenged alien hulls, half-broken cruisers, asteroid mine shells wrapped in plating painted with teeth and slogans. Engines purred with a mismatched chorus of human ingenuity and stolen technology. Where aliens prized symmetry, humans thrived in patchwork. Where others demanded elegance, humans preferred function wrapped in mischief. A dreadnought might bristle with weapons on one side and carry graffiti on the other. Smile, you're on Earth, camera. The first true demonstration came at the Droskin Convergence, where 3 Imperial carriers gathered to secure a wormhole. Scouts reported silence, then static, then screaming. When the dust settled, the wormhole was littered with drifting hulls, their insignia replaced by crude paintings of Earth flags and phrases no translator dared decode. The survivors whispered of laughter piped through comms, human voices joking about barbecue recipes and debating who had the best fried chicken, while they died in vacuum. Fear began to bloom. At the council, Mercer maintained his mask. He appeared with the same old suit, the same loosened tie, the same polite nods. Delegates shouted accusations, demanded confessions, threatened retaliation. Mercer only raised his hands gently, as though calming rowdy dinner guests. Now, he said warmly. Let's not lose our tempers. I keep hearing reports of fleets going missing. Terrible business. Reminds me of a magic trick I saw back in Las Vegas once. Poof, gone. And you're left holding nothing but your own confusion. Perhaps you're experiencing something similar. The insectoid queen slammed her limbs against the table. You mock us while your vermin spread. Confess. Confess. Mercer arched a brow, sipping from his battered thermos. My dear, confession is for guilty men. I'm not guilty. I'm just resourceful. You'll find humans have always been good at making do. You burn down our barn, we cook supper on the embers. You sink our ship, we learn to swim. You kill our people, we improvise. The avian scholar, feathers ruffled with unease, murmured, improvisation is not strategy. Mercer leaned forward, smile sharpening. On Earth, improvisation is strategy. Ask any jazz musician. The warlord hissed, claws scoring grooves into the table. But he did not laugh this time. None of them did. Beyond the chamber, Operation Alien Extinction advanced like a wildfire hidden under grass. Human cells infiltrated supply chains, slipping toxins into food stores tailored to alien biology. Entire battalions collapsed, their bodies stiff, while survivors babbled about strange flavors lingering on their tongues. On distant moons, colonies once declared extinct rose from ash, armed with weapons stolen from depots humans had sabotaged years earlier. Outposts reported comms infected with strange viruses that replaced commands with Earth songs looping endlessly. One admiral nearly tore his scales off when his war council broadcast played, "Take me out to the ball game," for 6 straight hours. It was not chaos without shape, it was a net tightening. Mercer's trap. He walked the halls of the council with the serenity of a priest in hostile territory. Delegates glared, spat, threatened. He responded with jokes, with quips about farm animals and barbecue sauce. The humor disarmed the foolish, infuriated the arrogant, and unsettled the wise. The smile was his shield, the knife remained hidden. In his quarters, reports multiplied. Survivors from colonies long thought dead joined the resistance. Engineers refined sabotage into art. Soldiers trained with laughter as ritual. Jokes etched on their rifles. Made in Earth. Warranty void if invaded. They fought not only with bullets, but with defiance. Every human strike was accompanied by humor sharp as claws, because nothing unnerved the galaxy more than prey that laughed while biting. Mercer studied the reports, lips tight in satisfaction. But he knew the blade was not yet fully unsheathed. The Empire still underestimated. They believed the disappearances were scattered rebellions, unfortunate but containable. They had not realized the scope, the design, the trap closing around them. That realization came at Rauner's gate. The Empire assembled a demonstration fleet, 60 ships, vast and proud, to crush whatever ghost haunted their borders. They marched into the gate with banners blazing, weapons humming. Transmission feeds carried their entry across systems, a reassurance to terrified allies. But no sooner had the flagship crossed than alarms screamed. One by one, ships vanished from sensors. Not destroyed, gone. The broadcast showed only empty space, fleets blinking out as though swallowed by the void. In truth, human forces had mined the gate with stolen phase tech, adapted with reckless brilliance. The wormhole inverted, scattering the armada across light years, stranding crews and systems with no exits. 1,000 soldiers woke to find their ships stripped bare, hulls painted overnight with slogans. Earth thanks you for flying with us. Please enjoy your stay in nowhere. The feed reached the council. Delegates erupted in horror. Mercer only crossed his legs, sipping coffee, nodding at the screen. Well, he murmured, voice calm. That's awkward. The insectoid queen shrieked, mandibles clacking. You will answer for this. Answer. Mercer's smile thinned into something surgical. Oh, I'll answer. Just not the way you like. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Extinction isn't a one-act play. It's a process. You showed us the first act when you burned our world. Now, his gaze swept them with polite finality. Now you're entering Act 2, the trap. Silence drowned the chamber. Even the arrogant warlord did not laugh. The avian scholar whispered to no one, they were never livestock. They were hunters. Mercer leaned back, finishing his coffee. His eyes glinted with the quiet satisfaction of a man who knew every step had been calculated years before. You should check your borders, he added conversationally. You might find they don't belong to you anymore. And in that moment, far across the stars, border stations lit with fire. Trade routes crumbled. Empires screamed. The trap had sprung, and humanity, scarred, burned, smiling, tightened its grip. The delegates stared at him, seeing for the first time not a remnant, not a relic, but a predator who had walked into their chamber wearing the mask of politeness. And in their silence, Mercer's smile sharpened into the knife it had always been. The galaxy learned the sound of extinction not as thunder, but as silence. Systems once loud with commerce fell quiet in days, their trade routes shredded, their patrols gone missing. The empire that had mocked humanity's frailty discovered gaps in its map, holes like teeth pulled from a jaw. Armadas meant to project dominance returned only as drifting shells, stripped bare, painted with crude human humor. Extinction sail. Everything must go. Aliens whispered it like a curse, as though speaking the words might summon laughter from a void. Colonel Elias Mercer stood at the center of this unraveling, the eye of a storm he had seeded years before. His calm never faltered, not in the council chambers thick with venom, nor in the midnight hours when reports of victory came soaked in blood. He still wore the same earth suit, still loosened his tie before speaking, still carried the battered thermos of coffee like a priest with sacramental wine. The mask of civility never slipped, because he understood what it hid, not weakness, but the most dangerous truth of all, that humanity did not rage blindly. It planned, it calculated, it smiled. Alien lords hurled accusations, demanded explanations, threatened retaliation. Mercer's replies came wrapped in charm sharp as glass. You call us vermin, he told them, voice steady. But vermin always outlive the empires that build traps for them. You kill 7 billion, and you think you've ended us. You've only made room for what remains to sharpen its teeth. The insectoid queen hissed that humanity was a plague. Mercer tilted his head thoughtfully, as if considering the insult. A plague? Perhaps. But funny thing about plagues, they spread faster when ignored. You might want to check your ventilation systems. They shouted him down, but their shouts trembled. Reports of sabotage arrived faster than reassurances. Grain silos spoiled overnight. War engines failed mid-battle, their circuits fried by human viruses disguised as lullabies. Entire sectors woke to find their power grids replaced with human broadcasts. Laughter, baseball commentary, even recipes. A galaxy that had prided itself on sophistication now trembled before scraps of culture it once mocked. Mercer listened to every report, memorizing the cadence of fear. He spoke to his hidden commanders with the same calm clarity, his orders precise, his humor deliberate. Remember, folks, we don't just fight, we perform. Leave them notes, leave them jokes. Let them feel the knife with the smile still on it. And so soldiers obeyed. Human troops daubed alien tanks with crude drawings before detonating them. Pilots painted slogans across stolen hulls. Barbecue special delivery. Commandos carved messages into council chambers before vanishing into shadow. Debt paid with interest. Fear spread not only through defeat, but through ridicule. The mighty empire found itself the punchline of a joke it could not kill. The avian scholar, once dismissive, confronted Mercer privately. His feathers were ragged, his voice hoarse. You cannot win this war. Even if you burn us, you will become monsters. You will be no better than those who destroyed your people. Mercer sipped his coffee, his eyes tired but unflinching. We didn't start this war, Professor. We didn't broadcast 7 billion corpses as entertainment. But you're right about one thing. We won't come out unscarred. No one ever does. That's the lesson, isn't it? War doesn't decide who's righteous. It only decides who's left standing. The scholar lowered his head. And what if no one is left standing? Mercer's smile flickered, not with humor, but with grim resolve. Then the galaxy will remember who stood last. The extinction lesson unfolded system by system. At Karani's prime, the Empire's central armory, humans detonated stockpiles with stolen codes, turning the night sky into a funeral pyre scene from 3 sectors away. At Vulcar's reach, sabotage left half an armada stranded without fuel, forced to watch helplessly as human raiders plucked them apart like vultures. At Syndra's Maw, an ancient fortress thought impenetrable, humans infiltrated under cover of laughter broadcast on every channel, jokes about card games and losing bets, before detonating the core from within. Mercer tracked each strike with the focus of a conductor guiding symphonies. The music was terror. The notes were flames. And the refrain, repeated across the stars, was that humans smiled while they killed. The insectoid queen screamed for total annihilation. The reptilian warlord demanded purges. The crystalline seer said nothing, only gazed at Mercer with sorrow, whispering of rivers of blood. The empire fractured under its own fear. Allies defected, refusing to send ships into haunted sectors. Traders abandoned routes, terrified of becoming punchlines. The once mighty galaxy began to crack. Mercer stood before them again, calm as ever, his tie slightly askew. You thought extinction was a lesson we would learn, but you never asked what lesson you'd be forced to learn in return. So allow me to teach you. He let silence stretch, every gaze fixed upon him. His smile was not wide, not mocking, but measured, like a teacher about to deliver the final answer to a question no one had studied for. The lesson is simple, he said quietly. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. Do not mistake laughter for submission. Do not mistake patience for surrender. We hid behind jokes because you weren't ready to see what stood beneath them. Now you see. Now you learn. Humanity doesn't forgive. Humanity doesn't forget. And once cornered, humanity doesn't stop. The chamber trembled not with applause, but with the weight of realization. Even the proud warlord lowered his eyes. Even the queen's venom faltered. They had killed 7 billion, thinking it was victory. But it had been the trigger, the catalyst, the invitation to war against an enemy that smiled while sharpening knives. Across the stars, battles raged into climax. Human fleets revealed themselves in full, stitched abominations that moved with predatory precision. Alien admirals screamed into comms, ordering retreats, but found only traps. Wormholes collapsed behind them, mines bloomed before them. Sabotage gnawed at their hulls. Soldiers abandoned posts, whispering of ghosts who left jokes written in blood. Mercer watched the collapse unfold, his face unreadable. He did not celebrate. There was no triumph in ashes. But there was justice, or something close enough to bear the name. He remembered Earth, the porch, the laughter, the games. He remembered 7 billion gone. And he whispered into his thermos of coffee, as though to them, debt paid. With interest. The council erupted into chaos. Delegates screamed, begged, bargained. Some called for peace, others for vengeance. Mercer stood calmly, waiting, until silence fell again. He set his thermos down on the polished table, the sound echoing like a gavel. You asked what extinction means, he said softly. It means you end something forever. But you made a mistake. You didn't end us. You revealed us. And now your extinction is the only ending left. The chamber fell silent. No one laughed. No one jeered. They only stared at the man who had walked into their halls with a smile and now left them staring into the abyss behind it. Outside, the stars burned with fire not their own. Armadas crumbled. Systems darkened. The galaxy shifted under the weight of its own arrogance. And Mercer, calm as ever, adjusted his tie, lifted his thermos, and offered the final line with the softness of a prayer and the sharpness of a knife. Class dismissed.